Hannaford Regional Technical School District Board meeting to order. I'd like to do the introduction of board members, and I'll call you as I see you on my screen, starting with my top left, which happens to be Judd.
Judd Markowski, resident of Bridport and WIB member.
Yeah, good.
Kim.
Kim Farnham from New Haven, a community at large appointed member from the Mount Abraham School District.
Lorraine.
Lorraine Morse from Middlebury, representing Addison Central School District.
Christina.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christina Macklin from North Ferrisburg, representing Wilson Northwest School District.
Steve.
Steve Rooney from Starksboro, representing the Mount Abe School District.
Missy.
Missy Beckwith, representing the Workforce Investment Board.
Nick.
Nick Colston from Shoreham, representing ACSD.
Suzanne Buck, representing ACSD. And administrators, I see Austin.
Austin Haynes, business manager, Hannaford Career Center.
Dana, are you an A208 or are you somewhere? Oh, there he is.
He's on twice.
Yeah. One is muted, Dana, and one isn't. We can't hear you, Dana. Sorry. All right. Well, Dana figured out technical difficulties. I'll ask others to introduce themselves. Linda.
Linda Barrett, clerk.
Nick. Cantrick.
Nick Cantrick, construction technology instructor at the Career Center.
Gretchen.
Gretchen Bailey, resident of Panton.
Patrice.
Assistant.
Kelly.
Kelly Mills, sustainable agriculture and plant and animal science instructor.
Lisa.
Lisa Rader, visual communications and design and illustration instructor.
And I do not see anyone else online. I would take a motion to approve the agenda. I do know that there are two additions. There is another piece of correspondence that Dana has to be read and acted on. And then Dana also had an update from staff meeting last night that he wanted to bring to the board and then ask the board in executive session to have a conversation about that. Yes, Dana? You're back. Yes.
I don't know what.
Now you're echoing. Are you still there, Dana?
I am.
Dana, I don't know what's going on, but you are now echoing like crazy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. I am in A208. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm still having some difficulties with the A208 speaker system. So I am operating off of my laptop as well. So I will continue to use my audio on the laptop. You'll be able to see A208. I'll turn the camera on. But if we need to go into executive session, I'll just move to another room. There's nobody here with me at the moment.
So Dana, I said before we approved the agenda that I knew we had two additions. One was under correspondence. It was a letter which we would then need to act on under action agenda. And that you also had some updates from staff meeting.
Yes, I have an update that I would like to put on under the action agenda. And yes, you may be right. It may spill over into executive session, but there's something that I would like to just share with the board in open session.
Yes. So may I have a motion from someone on the board to approve the agenda with those additions and iterations?
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Kim and seconded by Lorraine to adopt the agenda as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Do we have any comments from our visitors? I do not see any hands raised, nor do I see anything in the chat window, so I'm going to presume that there is no comments from our visitors tonight. Correspondence, Dana?
Yes. There are two pieces of correspondence. I'll start with the one that is already on the agenda, and that is a donation for materials for our construction technology program. I've been recently notified that there is a business partner in the community who would like to donate $500 worth of building materials to our construction tech program. There are a variety of materials including framing materials and screws and a variety of things that would be consumable. I think Nick Cantrick was on. I don't know if he's still there, but he could perhaps give a little bit more detail to that.
Nick is on. Nick Cantrick, do you want to speak to it? Or do you know more about it to let the board know?
I do. I was wondering, I just saw it on the action agenda. I didn't know if now is the time for comments or.
Now would be the time for comments.
Okay, great. Yeah. So Goodrow Lumber is a great partner for the construction tech program starting last year. Made contact with Tim Combs, who's an owner and vice president of the company, and he's been the primary contact for getting all of our materials for the tiny house project and other shop supplies that we need. And they've just been a really valuable resource for our program. And we are going to do a class fundraiser this year where we're going to build a couple sheds and learn about framing and build our skills, tool proficiency skills. And Goodrow offered to donate all of the framing materials for the project. The price of building materials has gone up. As people know, it's starting to come back down. It's not at the peak. But Tim wanted to know the framing materials list, and I sent it to him, and Goodrow is actually is willing to donate all of the materials, which was incredible news to receive just a couple days ago. So I'm not sure if you guys were included, but Goodrow sent us an estimate of the materials that they would be donating. And I'm not sure if that's in your board packets.
No, it's
No.
not.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
What's your total then, Nick?
The total is actually $2,000 worth of materials.
2,000?
Yeah, I was completely blown away.
I did see a list of building materials.
Yeah,
It
we've got the project.
So that's our class fundraiser. They're also, Goodrow is sponsoring us. They want to sponsor us, our program for the Lumbermen's Expo conference in December. And they're just really excited to see the construction technology program reborn, and they want to support it. So this was just really awesome news to hear that they were willing to donate all of the materials for all the framing material. We're going to try to build 2 8x10 sheds, and we're going to go. It's kind of fits into the general framing and building materials curriculum unit, and we're going to go to Livingston and get some inspiration on different shed designs. Then we're going to design the sheds and use the lumber donated from Goodrow to build them. And then the remaining, I should say too, that we have some money left over in our enterprise fund that we generated last year and with the tiny house project, and we're going to use those funds as well to buy extra trim goods and other materials that we might need.
So Nick, Dana said the initial letter that he had said $500 worth of building materials. It sounds like the board should, when we go to action under the action agenda, we should actually be accepting $2,000 worth of building materials.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. And that is such a great benefit and bonus to the program. Thank you, and thank everyone for working on that so hard. Great. And Dana, you had a second piece?
I do.
You want to read that then, or?
So yes, I have a letter directed to me as a superintendent, and it's from Austin Haynes. He says, please accept this letter as my formal resignation from my position as Director of Business Management and Finance at the Patricia A. Hannaford Career Center. To explain, I have decided that a professional change is needed so that I can establish a healthier work-life balance and ultimately be more present for my family. This has been an incredibly difficult decision for me, as I have not made this determination lightly or without having had many challenging conversations with my family over the past several weeks and months. I remain committed to supporting the school from now through December 31st, 2021, in hopes that the next 2 months would provide the time needed to recruit and onboard my replacement. I wanted to thank you and the entire Career Center family for supporting me in my professional development over the past year and a half. I have very much enjoyed many aspects of my job, and the skills and experience I acquired during my short tenure will greatly benefit me as I move into the next chapter of my life. I am tremendously thankful for this opportunity, and I will continue to be a strong advocate for the school. Sincerely, Austin Haynes. Just as a point of order, Suzanne, since Austin is one of the non-licensed employees, you don't have to take action on that resignation, but you may certainly do so if you choose.
Well, Austin, I will say for the board, we have so appreciated all of your hard work and your efforts, and you've been a breath of fresh air in that office, and we will definitely miss you. Other than that, I understand family has to come first, and in these times of COVID and craziness, that it's really putting a strain on families, and I get it. And I want to thank you for everything you've done, and wish you and your family well.
Thank you, Suzanne. Appreciate it.
So we will be taking up some of these pieces under the action agenda. Since the agenda was moved and approved, the consent agenda is the next piece. We've approved it all, but was there anything in the minutes that anybody might need them pulled, or are they fine? Hearing none. Nick, Costin.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's confusing with two Nicks on. Could you go over the monthly accounts payable for October, please?
Okay, so the general fund, there were 2 rounds of disbursements for a total of $217,619.47. The revolving fund disbursed $4,420.23. The Makery had $300, and there were 2 payrolls. One for 10/8, October 8th, for $85,256.41, and the other one was for October 22nd $84,133.03. That's it. They were approved prior to signing by Suzanne and myself.
Thank you, Nick.
And as a point of the fact that we have Shane now, I think getting these prepared and ready is going much smoother than it was before when Austin was on his own having to do everything. So.
Yes, Shane has seemed to have fit into that office pretty seamlessly.
Yeah.
And
good.
So I think he's been a big help to Austin. And moving to the action agenda items. So donation for materials to construction technology, which is a $2,000 donation. May I have a motion to accept that donation, please?
So moved, Judd.
Second, Nick.
Okay, moved by Judd and seconded by Nick to approve the donation of $2,000 worth of materials from Goodrow for construction technology. Is there any further conversation or discussion around that?
Can I just ask? Oh, okay, go ahead.
Judd, and then you, Lorraine.
I think it's, forgive me, but I think it's not exactly $2,000. I saw that receipt just before the meeting. So if it needs to be an exact figure, we should probably put that in there. Thank you.
It's $2,029.50. I found the invoice. Or the quote.
58 cents.
I think it's 58. Yeah.
Yes, 58. Oh, I thought you said 50, Nick.
I think I did say 50. It's 58. I can't read it.
Yes, 58.
Canadians have done away with cents.
So we've amended, done a friendly amendment to the motion, and the motion is to accept the donation for building materials of $2,029.58 from Goodrow for the construction technology program. It was moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion, conversation, questions?
I just had a question about,
yes,
so Nick, will like this, you said it's going to be a fundraiser. So like in the spring, will it be done and you'll like raffle them off, or how does that work?
Yeah, exactly. We're hoping to kind of like do a joint unveiling of the tiny house that we're, still working on, and then showcase these sheds and essentially raffle them off or auction them off. So that's what we're going for. First time we don't have all the details for that event yet, but that's the general idea.
Great. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I don't see any hands raised, and I don't see anything in the chat window. So I'm going to say we're good to vote. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Policy 2.5, emergency superintendent succession. That's you, Dana, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. You have that in your packet. I will just highlight some of the key points. It identifies that to protect the board from sudden loss of superintendent services, the superintendent shall not permit there to be fewer than one other executive to be familiar with the board and superintendent issues and possesses the requisite knowledge and skill to take over with reasonable proficiency as interim successor. And we have a number of people who are licensed, appropriately licensed with administrative endorsements in the building. Jay is the primary person as the assistant director, and Jay and I coordinate regularly, weekly, if not more frequently, on all areas of operation for the Career Center. He serves as backup on many of our committees, And then we also have a central office team that coordinates now every 2 weeks to make sure that the operations of the center are running smoothly, and we're developing greater cohesiveness with that central office team. And that includes the director of business management and finance. It also includes our administrative assistant. It includes our registrar, IT, director of facilities, and even the assistant, the financial assistant to the business office. The collaborative work really helps us to maintain smooth operations, and it's organized in such a way as to make transferring tasks and responsibilities rather efficient. The two most important areas of responsibility are both legal and fiscal, and those responsibilities are assumed by the assistant director, would be assumed by the assistant director, and the directors of business office and management. Regular consultation and collaboration have positioned both employees to assume interim responsibilities should the need arise. And what I've done at the end, I've identified those particular areas of monitoring reports that would be assumed by both the assistant director as well as the director of business management and finance. So it continues to be my goal to involve key administrative personnel in all aspects of leadership to ensure a continuous guidance and cohesive transition should the need arise. Thanks.
So before we go into that, the person that's on the iPhone, would you please either identify yourself in the chat window or change your moniker underneath it so that we know who you are for the records, please? That being said, are there any questions around policy 2.5 for Dana? Nick, is your hand raised? Nick Costin. Okay.
No.
All right. If there's no questions for Dana, may I have a motion to approve policy 2.5, emergency superintendent succession?
Moved.
It's moved by Lorraine. Is there a second? Second by Nick. To approve policy 2.5, emergency superintendent succession. Is there any further discussion?
Is this just is this the warning or the final posting?
So this is a read that we do every year on this particular policy. So it's under the governance policies of.
Okay, so this isn't a new policy. This is just an update.
It's an update. It's a monitoring report, Steve.
Okay, sorry, I had that mixed up.
That's okay.
That's okay. Are there any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving policy 2.5, emergency superintendent succession monitoring? Raise your hands or say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Next we have, I move my agenda, policy 2.6, asset protection, which is Austin.
Yep, that's mine, Suzanne. So Steve, to piggyback on your question, this is also an annual monitoring report we did last November. And I'll just summarize or read it as follows and try to summarize where applicable. So the policy states the superintendent shall not cause or allow corporate assets to be unprotected, inadequately maintained, or unnecessarily risked. And furthermore, the superintendent shall not. And then it lists a series of 11 different directives. So number 1 says, fail to insure against theft and casualty losses to at least 80% of the replacement value, and against liability losses to board members, staff in the organization itself, and an amount greater than the average for comparable organizations. So in short, the school has an insurance policy through VISBIT and a multi-line Coverage policy, I included that as a summary in the board packet. So the school is covered through VISBIT. Number 2 reads, allow unbonded personnel access to material amounts of funds. And employees are bonded through VISBIT's policy as well, similar to the multi-line policy. Number 3, subject facilities and equipment to improper wear and tear or insufficient maintenance. To summarize this point, our supervisor of operations and maintenance regularly maintains and manages equipment and schedules service contracts when needed. Number 4, unnecessarily expose the organization, its board, and its staff to claims of liability. We have a multi-line insurance policy with VISBIT that covers legal liability, and it has an extension for errors and omissions to protect against liability claims. Number 5, make purchases where normally prudent protection has not been given against conflict of interest of over $5,000 without having obtained comparative prices and quality, or of over $5,000 without stringent method of ensuring the balance of long-term quality and cost. Orders shall not be split to avoid these criteria. So in essence, we have a procedure in place where we obtain competitive quotes when the threshold is over $5,000. And we follow suit when it comes to state statutes with respect to the bid process. As it stands, there's a $15,000 threshold. So any amount in excess of $15,000, we are requesting proposals or quotes. The RFP threshold has recently changed and it's now $40,000, but this is potentially a topic of conversation to review with the budget and policy committee and take further action at a future date. So number 6 reads, fail to protect intellectual property information and files from loss or significant damage. So we maintain our personnel and employee files, student access and files are locked under secure password and protection servers. We have firewalls in place to protect against viruses and those sorts of threats, malware. Number 7 states receive, process or disperse funds under controls that are insufficient to meet the board approved auditor standards. We've discussed this in previous meetings, but essentially we have a purchase request and approval process in place wherein faculty or employees submit requests for purchasing. That's reviewed and approved by the central office and director. And then purchase orders are generated and invoices are matched against purchase orders for processing. Number 8 states compromise the independence of the board's audit or other external monitoring or advice, such as by engaging parties already chosen by the board as consultants or advisors. There's no conflict of interest there. Number 9 states invest or hold operating capital in secure instruments, including uninsured checking accounts, or in non-interest bearing accounts, except when necessary to facilitate ease in operational transactions. And in short, all cash holdings are held in interest bearing accounts and they require deposit insurance. Number 10 is endanger the organization's public image, its credibility, or its ability to accomplish ends. We maintain a positive image throughout our community, and that's evidenced most significantly by the acceptance and approval of our annual budget year after year. Number 11 states change the organization's name or substantially alter its identity in the community. And no such action has happened during this past year. So that is the policy from start to finish.
Great, thank you, Austin. Are there any questions or concerns for Austin about policy 2.6? Nick Costin?
Austin, the insurance VISBIT limits are the same. They're the same as last year, right?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I included a COI, which is a one-page overview of the policy coverage and limitations, and I don't think there's really any movement there. You know, every so often Visbit alters their limitations. I know this year there's significant movement on cyber insurance, so that's generally included in the umbrella policy, but it's pretty standard from what we had last year.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Austin? Seeing none, we'll take a motion to approve policy 2.6, asset protection.
So moved.
Nick moved it, Judd seconded to accept policy 2.6, asset protection. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Preliminary budget development presentation and discussion is Austin, I'm presuming this is you and Dana.
It's me primarily, Suzanne. I'm going to share my screen as long as I can, as long as I have that capability. Patrice, can you make sure that I can share my screen? Hello, Patrice.
Yes, you should be able to.
Okie doke. I should be screen sharing, and according to what I can see here, you should be able to see the start of the presentation. Is that correct? Okay. Good evening, everyone. I think everybody knows who I am, but I'll introduce myself again. I'm Dana Peterson. I'm the Superintendent Director here at the Hannaford Career Center, and I'm now in my 5th year. Some highlights from the school year. I would just like to acknowledge that many of our programs are full or very near full, and that is impressive. Our automotive, diesel, construction tech, sustainable ag, med professions, industrial design, and design and illustration are all.
Maybe I should look for a different job. Why? Why?
But Patrice, are you muted or are you talking to me? Okay. Anyway, we have also opened up an additional section for pre-tech and mechanical science as a result of numbers that we had, and we've expanded opportunities for VUHS, for our VUHS satellite program for both pre-tech and middle school students, and that's going extremely well. That was partially funded by a grant from the AOE. We continue to work to serve all of our students from our partner schools all over Addison County and beyond. And some students have experienced some social emotional learning impact of COVID over the past 2 years, and we're working diligently to help address those through our student support network and contacting our partner schools. Students have been very engaged in both classroom learning and co-op experiences overall, and work-based learning, as was the case last year, must follow very stringent guidelines. And we have very interested partners in our business partners who are singing the praises of many of those who are engaged in co-op and other work-based learning experiences. So we're proud of them, proud of the students. We did a very preliminary look at the budget, looking at a fairly level funded budget with some cost driving increases that we know would be carried over for next year. And that shows a projected expense budget for preliminarily projected expense budget of $3,916,439. That change would be 87,000 above the current FY22 budget. Revenues, they're not fully projected at this time, but we are looking at a possibility of having about 79,000 in innovation grant support and some tax relief. And then all other assumptions of the revenues would be the same for FY23. No change in those projections. As everybody knows, our estimated tuition assessment is the calculation of our total amount to be raised by taxes, which is not the total amount of the budget. It's the total amount of the budget minus any revenues and offsetting sources of income. That number is projected right now to be just under 2 million, 1,938,000, divided by our 6th semester average. And I'm very pleased to report that that 6th semester average is up over 4 students, well, approximately 4 students, I guess. From last year, we were at 128 and some change, and this year we're at 132 and some change. That would generate a tuition of $14,630. When you add in our state payment of $91.97, that's based on last year's calculation. We haven't gotten this year's figures yet. That would mean that we would have basically a flat cost for per pupil for next year at $23,827. That's also subject to some rounding and other calculations, but that's a preliminary projection. I want to take a moment to show our enrollment trends on this slide. So our longitudinal data, for which I started this several years ago, began in 2000. And if you look at the left side of this slide, you'll see that the 2 lines, both semester 1, the blue, and semester 2, the red, were just hovering around the 140 student FTE count. That is per semester. That we had each, yes, I think that's each semester. Let me, no, yeah, longitudinal data. That might be the 6. No, that's the data for each semester. So you can track that, and you can see that over that 22-year period, the number of students has fluctuated to some extent per semester. That's not the 6 semester average. But what's interesting to note is in the mid 2000s, around 2011, we had a first semester average that was almost up at 180. But other than that, we have had a number that has ranged somewhere between 140 and 160. And we are very much, we hit that point in 2 years ago, and we've hit that again this year. You can see those last 2 points, or last 3 points. And the dip that you see in there, which was the fiscal year 21, was down. That was the decrease that we saw as a result of the COVID impact, and that dropped us approximately 20 FTEs. But we're happy to report that our FTE counts are now projected to be up both for first and second semester, at or above the 147 mark. What I also did was I gave us a little bit of a more recent overview of where we have been for 6 semester averages since 2015. So if we look at the fall of 2015, we had 133.97 FTEs. That went up a tick in the fall of 2016. And then it dropped significantly in the fall of 17. That was in large part due to a very low number of FTEs in the spring of that year. The lowest, we'll talk about that in a minute, but that was the lowest point in the last 2 decades at only 111. Then it dropped once again in the fall of 18, and then it has started to progressively move back up over the course of the last 3 years, 2019, 2020, and 2021. And we are now, if you look, very close to where we were in the fall of 2015, with an FTE count of 132.52 compared to 133.97. So pleased to report that the interest in the Career Center is strong. And it's worthy to note that this is from a population of students in our partner districts that has been declining pretty significantly over time for all three of our major partner sending districts. The sixth semester average, a few other statistics, have fluctuated between 123 and 135. As I mentioned on the last slide, 132 is really at the upper end of that range. In the fall of 2015, we hit a high for that semester of 153. In the spring of 17, we hit a low of 111, as I mentioned earlier. In the fall of 19, we had 147. This year, we're back to 147. Last year, we came in at 126. That accounts for the 20 FTE drop that we showed on the previous slide. I gave an example of Mount Abe. Mount Abe's attendance or at the Career Center in the fall of 20 was 40.17. In the spring of 20 was 30.8. In the fall of 21. Whoops. Oh, okay. These fall of 20, it's FY 20. So that was actually the fall of 19. And then spring of that year is spring of 20, 38. Fall of 21, fiscal year 21 is last fall, the fall of 2020. And you see a drop there of to down to 29, 25. And now we're back up by 13 FTEs for this year. So Mount Abe by itself has contributed significantly to that increase in FTEs. So we're very glad to be partnering with them as much as we are this year. In fact, one of those sections for mechanical science was driven by interest from Mount Abe students. So we're very proud of that accomplishment. Opportunities to collaborate. We continue to collaborate with all of our sending schools. And PAHCC, this is worthy of note. I think I've mentioned it in my superintendent's reports each of the last couple of months, but PAHCC is in two cohorts for instructional leadership with Mount Abe and one with Virgins. One is called the Instructional Leadership Academy with the University of Washington. And that began back in September. Excuse me, that one began in October. And we've met several times. The second one is the Leadership and Instructional Education with Katie Novak. And that includes just Mount Abe, but no, excuse me, that one includes Mount Abe and Virgins. The other one just includes Mount Abe. So the Instructional Leadership with the University of Washington, we're in a cohort with Mount Abe. And the other Leadership and Inclusive Education with Katie Novak includes both Mount Abe and Virgins. In fact, Mount Abe and Virgins have graciously incorporated us into their ESSER funding to each support half of our participation in that, half of the cost for our participation in that training initiative. As we discussed last year, we will be working with all of our Addison County superintendents more closely, and that consists of a fall and a winter presentation. I've already done one preliminary presentation with Mount Abe, that was last week, and I have a tentative one set up with ACSD next week, and I'll be working to reach out to Virgins to make a presentation to Addison Northwest in the coming weeks. Questions?
I have Dana, Kim here. Would we be able to have a copy of this?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll send you a PDF afterwards.
Thank you.
It is only preliminary. People need to know that lots of things could change between now and our next meeting, where Austin and I will be delving into the budget specifics in greater detail.
Missy, did you have a?
Yes, I noticed in the presentation that it seems like semester 2 has lower numbers than semester 1, and I'm wondering if you could tell us why that might be.
Sure. There are a couple of factors, Missy, that may impact that. The first factor is most of our classes serve as all-year classes. And so there's no opportunity once the school year has begun to add students. There are a couple of exceptions to that. But if somebody is not doing well, or they need additional supports, or it's not looking like the right placement, then they make another choice, then those students will be unenrolled, but we have no way of replacing them. So that's something that is a natural phenomenon of the school year starting. And if somebody moves out, they leave our enrollment. We have on occasion accommodated somebody transferring from another career center, but those are few and far between. So if someone is going to drop the course, there's no real way to be able to add someone in their stead.
Thank you. That makes sense.
Yep, you're welcome.
Are there any other questions from the board for Dana?
I've got a quick question.
Christina?
Yeah. Dana, I'm just wondering about the weighting study and
Sure.
how that, have you guys talked about, or how it's going to impact the Career Center,
Sure.
and also the potential IB program, but maybe that's a conversation for the next time we do this. Yeah.
The impact on the weighting study, how do I answer that question? We are not factored into the calculation of the weighting study. So the Career Center itself will not receive any funding as a result of that recalculation. That will be distributed solely to our partner districts and to those LEAs. So those block grants will be allocated solely to the recipients. Any implications for us would be as a offshoot or an extension of the work that they're doing to support students. So I might put in a plug right now. As with the ESSER funding, we have received some support from our partners. We are looking at those students who have social emotional needs, compiling a list, and looking to put together a proposal for our partners to help us be able to deliver those services and support our students who may have those more significant needs than we have experienced in the past at the Career Center. So we're working on that. That's part of our recovery plan as well that Jay and I compiled last spring. So with respect to the weighting study, there's no direct support for us at this point in time.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions, concerns? And Dana, I do believe that your presentation is on the agenda for ACSD for next Monday.
Great. It will be very similar. I'm not thinking that there are going to be significant changes between tomorrow and Monday, but it will look very similar. There'll be a couple of little changes for ACSD that are not in ours, but I can probably provide them with an example similar to the one that I did for Mount Abe.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to accept the preliminary budget development presentation and discussion?
So moved, Judd.
Been moved by Judd, seconded by Lorraine, to accept the preliminary budget development presentation. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. The next item is community engagement / EEI bond proposal, next steps. I believe we have Mr. Smith from EEI with us. Missy is also with us from
the facilities.
Thank you. Total blank on that one, sorry.
It's okay, I felt your pain.
It's like, I know it starts with F, but I just couldn't find the word. Oh my God, it's been a long day. And then we have the new chair of the community engagement group, and that's Lorraine, all present. So we thought, when Dana and I put the agenda together, we thought this would be a great time to talk about where do we go with the EEI bond proposal, next steps, how can the engagement committee help? What should the board be looking for the community engagement group to be working on? And Mike's here, and I'm sure he's got some updates for us as well. Correct, Missy?
I'm not sure of the updates, so I'm just gonna claim being behind on this. So Dana, are there updates for Mike to provide?
I'll let him chime in to see if there's anything new that has developed since the last presentation in October. If not, then we will go on with the transition to how we're going to promote our bond proposal. So that might be Matt. Is that Matt?
Yeah, it's Matt. Mike's not available because he's on a plane. He had a funeral to go to on Friday. So nothing has changed as far as the presentation goes. I'm mostly here just to
Matt, I'm sorry, can you speak up a little bit louder? It's really hard to hear you.
Is that any better?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. Mike is not available tonight. He is on a plane. He had a funeral to go to on Friday. So there has not been any changes since our last presentation. So I was mostly here just in case any last minute questions popped up. But as far as where we stand, we're in the same boat that we were in last time we spoke. And now it's just a matter of choosing where we go from here.
Okay. So I'm gonna let Missy and Lorraine pull the conversation forwards, thinking about, you know, when would we want to start presenting information to the public? How would we want to see that presented? You know, are we going to do, as they called a presentation in every community? What are your thoughts as chairs, and how would you like to see this roll out?
I guess that I feel like it would be a good idea for the facilities committee and the community engagement committee to schedule a meeting, single topic meeting, to talk about this. And then if we need to come back with a plan to the board, because we haven't actually had an opportunity to brainstorm and toss ideas around. Lorraine, you're on both committees, so that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Missy. I think that would be a very good idea. In fact, and that was one of the things that I thought is perhaps beneficial, that I am on both committees, and I think it's a good dovetail to working with the committees to see what we can come up with to suggest.
Christina, you have your hand up.
Yes, since I'm on the Community Engagement Committee, and I am part of the Facilities Committee in my district and was part of our EEI project, I just thought I would share a couple things that we put together at the time we were putting our bond forth. And basically, the two committees got together to talk about just what Missy just suggested, but we created a flyer that we mailed that detailed, you know, all the things that were going to happen. We made a video that we posted, and then we held community events, or I can't remember, I'd have to look back, but at least one, if not two, sessions to promote the work that was going to be done. So I just wanted to throw that out there for everybody to think about.
Thank you. So Christina, question, was the video that Addison Northwest made similar to the video that we saw at last month's meeting? Or was it something really different from that?
That's a good question. Frankly, I'd have to go back and rewatch it because I don't exactly remember all the details, but the video that we put forward, I believe, was made after we made the decision to put the bond out, and then the video that we created highlighted all the different pieces that were going to be done as part of that project. So, and we interviewed like at principals and different people that were in the schools to talk about it. But so somewhat similar, I guess, in some ways. But yeah. So sorry, that was not a great answer, but
well, no, I mean it gives people a way to start thinking about if we have a current video, can we cut and splice or add pieces into it.
Matt may be able to say something to this, but when we talked with the videographer that I think was present at our last board meeting, he said that they could adapt, adjust, and create additional footage for a full rollout. They were doing that as a sample of what we could do and how we were presenting that to the board. So that could serve as a preliminary video, I believe, and I think that there might be an opportunity to have a greater number of stakeholders talk about that. But I'd let Matt chime in if he knows more about that than I do. But that seemed to be the implication from Mike, Davey, and the videographer. So.
Yeah, yes, Dana, I believe you're 100% correct. That was a preliminary to kind of get an idea of how we could roll it out and how it would look. And there's absolutely room for adjustment and some editing for sure.
Thanks, Matt.
And I will chime back in that EEI did produce our video, so it wasn't, so thank you for EEI's help on that because it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. So I don't see any other hands raised and I don't see any comments in the chat. So could I have a motion to ask the Community Engagement Committee to meet with facilities and develop like a timeline and materials to bring back to would bringing it back to the next board meeting be too quick? Or
I almost feel like we have to if we're going to meet our March voter deadline.
Okay. So would someone like to make that motion?
I'll try to get this right. I would like to make a motion for the Community Engagement and the Facilities Committee to meeting and produce a list of next steps as it relates to preparing the bond vote for the March voters. Does that sound okay?
And it'll come back in December?
Yes, please.
I'll second that.
Seconded, so it was moved by Missy, seconded by Lorraine. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no hands raised, nothing in the chat, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your Zoom hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passed. Thank you all, and it'll be good to have a great conversation around this between engagement and facilities. Judd, I'm going to say action on new CBA is you because you were the chair.
Yes.
Am I correct?
That is correct. We are looking to finish discussion on the CBA by just the final language, the legalese, the putting all the right places in, and then finishing sharing that with the teachers. We had a preliminary sort of ratification based on a list of agreed items and language in there by a lawyer. And so now what is happening is we're getting that language properly in the CBA to finish that off.
So, Judd, have the teachers have been ratified? Yes? No?
Well, they have ratified what has been prepared for them this evening in our meeting. I believe one of the things on our list is to share the final language that is in the actual CBA now that it's a complete item. In the efforts to get things to go forward, because things took longer, the teachers had signed off on it as sort of as a list of agreed articles and then some language change. Now that language change is going in, so now we can do an actual final ratification.
So the teachers have seen all the final language then, that's what you're saying, Judd?
No, we need to share that language with them. They have seen the language that the lawyers have presented, but not inside of the CBA yet. So they've agreed to it in components. Does that make sense? And we just, there is just a final sign off on our side to make sure that we got all of the T's crossed and the I's dotted before we send this out.
I see.
So that we don't have to do it twice.
So is this a topic for executive session or no? This evening?
Board, what's your pleasure? You've received the document in the packet. Do you want to discuss it further in executive session, or do you want to take action now?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Lorraine.
So the teachers have not actually ratified yet. There's correct? Or they have ratified
We shared with them at the last, well, first, can we decide whether this is executive session or open session? I think that would be the first thing to decide whether I've already said something that should only be said in executive session.
So I guess, Judd, what Lorraine is asking can be said in open session. Have they ratified the actual CBA or not, is what Lorraine's asking, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, then no, they have not. The actual CBA with the language in it is what I thought we were going to discuss in executive session to make sure that we had all of those I's crossed, I's dotted, T's crossed. Then, so if I have misunderstood something, I'm embarrassed and sorry about that, but yes, so Lisa Rader has just said, yes, ACEA ratified 2 weeks ago. That 2 weeks ago, we did not have the language in the new CBA. We had a list of agreed upon articles, and we had language that the lawyer shared with us, and we signed off on it.
Okay, so basically everything has been agreed to. It was just a matter of inserting everything we've agreed to into the contract.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not like we're doing anything. I mean, they've already ratified, so there's nothing, we can't go back now and.
No, it's simply having it in an actual document.
Right, so there's nothing to go into executive session for. It's been ratified by the teachers as presented.
Okay.
We're simply stamping. It's now, the stuff we already have agreed to is just in the contract officially.
Yes, that is the distinction I was trying to make, and yes.
Okay, so I don't see any going to executive session. There, Suzanne?
Okay, then that.
It's looking like Dana wants to say something, but I'm not sure. No?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I think it's unclear enough that we should go into executive session.
So it's fine. We can go into executive session because we do have negotiations and personnel later on the agenda. And we can review this and we can come out and do a motion after executive session.
That's fine. That's fine with me. I'm sorry if my answer threw folks. Everything was agreed to. Even, you know, Lisa Rader right here on Messenger is agreeing to that. I was just trying to be clear that we agreed to the items. There is now just a final document. I didn't mean to throw folks off here. So
nothing's been changed other than what you shared with us at the last
yes
meeting in executive session. Nothing's been changed.
Nothing's been changed. That's
Okay.
correct.
But if Steve wants to go into executive session, I'm fine with that. I mean,
Well, I just have a couple of questions that I'm not sure I want to ask right now.
okay, yeah. So let's wait and have an executive session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we will move the action on new CBA to after executive session. So Linda, we will take copious notes of what happens after executive session and get that to you. Okay.
Well, we won't take copious notes. We will tell her who made motion. And since I'm the note taker.
All right, Lorraine.
Suzanne, just a procedural question. Do you ask for a motion to table until after executive session?
I was just gonna adjust the agenda and move it to after executive session.
Okay.
If it's more proper to table and move it to executive session, I'll take a motion to do that.
I think you're fine just moving it to executive session.
Okay.
Thanks, Linda.
And Dana, you had said at the beginning of the meeting that the letter of resignation due to the position
Yes,
did not require board action.
it does not. His employment agreement allows him to give us 30 days notice, and so he's following within that agreement. So it does not require any action on the part of the board, and we can go ahead and advertise tomorrow. You can take action if you like.
I was just going to ask for a motion to accept his resignation with deep regret and wish him well. Nick Costin, you're.
No, I think that's appropriate. I think Austin's efforts have been really appreciated, and he's brought a lot of clarity to the position. And it's I do have regrets that he's taken this decision. Thank him anyway.
Is there a second to?
Second.
Motion? Second, it's been moved and seconded to accept Austin's resignation with deep regret and wish him well. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none and seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Dana, the last thing under action is staff meeting update.
Yes. So I want to just take a moment to share with you that yesterday, I think it was yesterday, yes, yesterday afternoon, we had an all faculty and all staff meeting here at the Career Center, and we discussed a variety of things, including the social and emotional learning needs of students, as well as the physical, psychological, and emotional needs of our staff, and how we have been supporting students in the community over the course of the last 3 school years. And the Career Center faculty and staff have been a stalwart of support for the students through those past 3 school years. And many folks have recognized that support and acknowledged the hard work of our staff and educators. And the students and community have expressed overwhelming support for the work that has been done during that time to keep students in school, to provide for remote support at the same time, and to basically step forward and provide whatever students have needed over the course of the last 3 school years, or portions of the last 3 school years. We also discussed at that meeting a recent decision, last week, in fact, I think, by ACSD, or at least announced by Superintendent Burrows, to provide 2 additional days off at Thanksgiving. And the purpose of that was to help people recharge mentally and rejuvenate themselves physically. I think it's important to note, as Jay and I were looking at how things developed, that both Mount Abe and Virgins had originally planned in their calendars for this year to not run professional development on the Monday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We ended up following the ACSD calendar, which had 2 professional development days scheduled at that time. That followed the previous year's schedule, which worked out very well. But we want all of our employees to feel like they're valued and recognized and acknowledged for all of their hard work, dedication, and major contributions over the course of the past 20 months. And that was a message that was communicated by Peter Burrows in his communications, I think, both to ACSD board members as well as staff. Jay and I believe that it would be extremely worthy of serious consideration for the board to contemplate how this might also be accomplished for the employees at the Career Center.
Thank you, Dana. And I knew that in a conversation with Dana that this was coming. And I reached out to council, and council has given us guidance on it. And so I would like to take this up under executive session, because it is to do with the CBA and their contracts per guidance from general counsel, if that's okay with the board.
Fine with me.
Fine.
So that any action on that would also come after the executive session piece. So again, Linda, another piece that we will report back to you on.
More notes for Lorraine.
Oh yes, through Lorraine.
Copious, no.
Copious, yes. We'll make sure Lorraine takes them word by word. Moving on, reports to the board. We had several reports in the board pack. Are there any questions or comments for anybody that wrote reports? I'm not seeing any hands raised.
I just want to highlight while people are thinking, I think, Suzanne, a small but important aspect of something that I included in my first article in the board report, and that is for the first time in memory of folks who've been here, at least as reported to me, we offered 5 work-based learning experiences this summer. Now, somebody with a longer history can correct that if that is not accurate. But I wanted to compliment Len Schmidt for taking initiative to work with our area business partners and with our students to inaugurate that opportunity this summer. And we're hoping to expand on that for future summers. That has also helped make a transition into the school year for work-based learning opportunities. And both David Roberts and Len are looking at establishing ongoing relationships with a number of significant business partners in Addison County for placement for both adult ed students as well as our secondary students. And I think that that's going to be a great opportunity, both for economic development as well as for learning opportunities for our students. So just want to say thanks to all of their work, for them, all their work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Linda, did you have a question?
Right, I just was checking, because the picture in his report, I'm wondering, is that also in the website where you're highlighting all 5 of those programs?
Good question. It might be there somewhere. I don't know if Len, the picture that I put on there is the
right, it looks like it's from the website. That's why I was wondering.
That picture is from the website. I wanted to highlight co-op opportunities through that. Linda, I can't remember whether Len identified each one of those for this year or whether that was just me using the picture as a highlight to capture people's attention and then expounding on that. I know he covers a variety of programs and what those opportunities are. I don't know if he's actually reported on what I have included in here as information. So I put those the information on 4 different placements, including construction tech, industrial design and fab, human services, and diesel power. And that those have continued throughout the fall. I don't know if those are highlighted on the website as being special summer internships or not.
I know at one point he had, we had seen the highlight about the student that was doing the aeronautic piece, but I didn't.
Yes, and that was one of our primary ones. That was 2 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that is his capture photo for that student, because that is a significant event and achievement, both for the student and for our co-op program. So
that was all I needed.
So Dana, one thing I have heard, and it's not a question about the board reports, but it's in addition to, can we go back to, I have had some people ask if we could get back to having each program present a little video clip or something at a board meeting about their program and what's going on. We kind of got away from it.
Absolutely.
Because of COVID, but if there's any way that they can videotape a little bit about what's going on in their class and what the students are doing and then bring it to the board would appreciate seeing.
That's a great suggestion, Suzanne.
Just because the board really enjoys seeing, you know, what's going on and seeing the students, and yeah, we're still in the Zoom world, but it would be nice if there was some way we could bring that back.
I think we can. I think people have become a little bit more familiar and comfortable with technology, and somebody could perhaps do a short video explaining. Instead of having a report in person where the students would stand up and present, they could capture that on on video and then present that at a board meeting. But we'll talk about that with our instructors and ask if they'll sign up like they did previously. And that was getting a lot of momentum. So thank you for asking that question.
Great, thank you. Board, is there anything about any of the reports that you'd like to ask? If not, we'll move on. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. I'm not seeing anybody's comment in the sidebar. I'm not really sure where to put this, Dana, so I'm just gonna put this kind of above the other, that I publicly would like to extend condolences to Mike McGrath and his family over their recent loss. Several of us attended the wake yesterday, representing not only the board, but the Career Center. And I just want to publicly acknowledge that he's been our board member, and it's a really sad time for them. And if there's anybody that has any time that could maybe shoot him a little email line, I think he would appreciate it. So
Suzanne, I will add that the Career Center is putting together a card of condolences for the McGrath family. So
great.
That was circulating yesterday. So it was a sad event to attend, but the outpouring of love and support for the McGrath family at the viewing yesterday was amazing. And I think that it's important to note that the Career Center holds a special place in their heart for Mike's son, Dawson. So thank you.
Jay?
Sorry. I would also just add that a few employees of the Career Center were able to go to the service today as well, and just commented on how nice it was and how impressed, there were a lot of people there to support the family and all of that. So it was nice that they were able to make it to that.
Great, thank you. Thank them too, please, for going. Anything else? Okay, so we'll move on to 6, other related to board operations. Is there anything else that people think we need to add into our meetings, take out of our meetings, whatever? Okay, we're all quiet. Policy 4.1, governing style. Christina, would you like to take it on, please?
I will. Let's see, it looks like we're on time at 6:23, and I think we did a nice job tonight of keeping moving things forward and hearing all the reports and asking good questions. And yeah, good job, everybody.
May I have a motion from the board to go into executive session for negotiations and personnel?
So move.
Move up second.
It was moved by Nick and seconded by Lorraine to go into executive session for the purpose of negotiations and personnel. Patrice, all those in favor of that, please say aye. Sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Patrice, can you move
Yes, ma'am.
the board and Dana into executive session?
Come on, Jay, to join us.
Hello.
Hey, did we get everyone back? 1, 2. Looks like the board's all back. Dana is
Wendy Pratt.
doing the halls of the Career Center. So I thank you, board, for your work in executive session. And I believe we have a motion on the CBA to put forth. Lorraine?
Yes, I would like to move to accept a 3-year collective bargaining agreement between the Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School District Board and the Addison Central Educators Association, Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School District Unit, from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. A copy of the agreement to be provided to the two negotiating teams for signatures by November 11th.
Is there, Steve has seconded that motion. Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion, any nays? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. The next item up, we had moved the staff meeting update request conversation to executive session, and the board discussed it in its entirety, and we have come out with a motion. Madame Lorraine, please.
Per the recommendation of Superintendent Peterson, the board moves to grant all Career Center employees November 22nd and 23rd off with pay. Side letters will be created for those employees covered by a collective bargaining agreement. And the board thanks our staff for their hard work and services on behalf of all the students that we serve.
Thank you, Lorraine. Is there a second to that motion, please?
Second.
We lost.
Yeah, you cut out, Suzanne.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's been moved by Lorraine and seconded by Kim. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing nothing in the chat and no raised hands, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye or raise your Zoom hands.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Another long meeting, and I am so sorry, board, that we always, Dana and I work hard not to have these go on forever, and it seems that even our best planning doesn't quite cover the longness of some of our meetings. So I apologize wholeheartedly to the board, and I hope that since I won't see many of you between now and Thanksgiving, that all of you enjoy the holidays with your family and get to have some relaxation and wellness respite, just like our teachers and our staff will be able to enjoy. I thank all of you for all of your hard work, your tenacity, your strength, and your willingness to serve the students of this district and of the county. So with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And second.
Moved by Kim and seconded by Jed to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you,
You're
everyone.
welcome.
Thank
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Good night,
Appreciate it.
everyone.